And there we go. Alright guys, so hello and welcome back to game number 1 now. Actually, it's not even welcome back, it's just welcome to game number 1 between CKF and MCL. This is once again from the group stages of the War is Coming tournament. And it should be a good one. Game number 1, as usual, will be a land nomad. And that's fantastic because it's a pretty interesting map. We've seen some very fun games on this map so far. In fact, some of the biggest upsets of the tournament have been on this map so far. So it's all good. And I guess the only downside to having yet again another land nomad map is that we've seen it many times before. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Seeing a map multiple times, being played by many different teams and with many different civilizations, I guess it makes it interesting because you kind of see many different ways in which it's been played, and as such you really kind of get a feel for all the different strategies and the play styles of each team in this tournament. So I think it's good to see a few standard or same maps in each set, each group stage set. So I think that is a good thing, but also I like the fact that we do have some randomness in the maps, with the War is Coming map pack being completely random, of course, giving a little bit of flavor there. So first game will be land nomad, and we've got CKF versus MCL. CKF going into this as the favorites, I am sure, because CKF are one of the invited teams into this tournament. They are they are a Chinese team, the name Chinese Kung Fu. A little bit of a dead giveaway there that they are actually a Chinese team. And they have some really big names as well, including Tim, who is one of the best players of all time in the Age of Empires community. Though Tim, so far in this game, not making an appearance, there are other big names such as Jeffrey and PBTD, Super Zoo. God damn, I know that is an alt account for someone, but it's just slipped my mind. But we'll introduce the players in a minute, and we'll see who we've actually got. MCL, I believe mostly Brazilian. I'm pretty sure Magnata is Brazilian, but the other guys, I've not really heard of them too much in the past. I have heard of a couple of the other guys on the MCL rota, but either these guys are playing under alternate nicknames, or I'm not sure at all who they are. So we'll see. So basically, we will see the land nomad off to a pretty slow start, as usual, but that's not such a big deal. We'll just wait for them to get their TCs up, or when they start getting their TCs up, sorry, we will introduce the players. Obviously, the Mayan player here, PBTD, able to get that TC up a little bit sooner, thanks to having 4 villagers to start, and it looks like there are no Chinese players in this game either, so the Mayans players should be off to a good start wherever they are on the map, getting their Tan Center up just a little bit earlier than the rest of the players in this game. Though Grammy in the orange, the other Mayan player for MCL, is not quite there on the speed that PBTD is with his TC. So TCs are all the way or coming up now, so I'll introduce the players and see who we've got. Obviously, this map does have some unfavorable starting locations, as we saw with the That's Amore team in the last set that we watched, with Cocochino going out very early on, actually defeated due to such a bad starting location. So up to the northwest of the map in the grey, we've got PBTD. He's playing for Team CKF. His teammate down to the south of him, in the pocket position, I guess you could say, is Jeffrey. He's playing as the Turks in the purple. To the right of Jeffrey, we've got I Am OK. He's playing in the blue as the Teutons. And their final, last but not least, player for CKF on the right side, the very south, but sort of off to the right as well, is Super Zoo in the teal, playing as the Spanish. So this guy is on the flank, and PBTD technically, I guess, on the flank as well. No real awkward starting locations for either team though, and that's nice to see. Means we should see a pretty standard starting game. So on the very northwest of the map in the yellow, we've got MCL Male, or McL, or I'm not sure how you would say that, but he's playing as the Turks up here. He's on the flank. In the pocket position for these guys in the green, they've got Magnata playing as the Spanish. And the other pocket in the red, we've got MCL Scrath playing as the Teutons. And on that flank, for the orange player, we've got Grammy playing as the Mayans. So it should be, like I say, a good game. I like seeing Land Nomad. It's not a map that I have done that many commentaries of in the past, and something that I actually am finding that I'm enjoying quite a lot. These starting locations, like I say, are pretty good for both teams. They've not got anyone who's in a horrible location. They all seem very evenly spaced, and that's nice. Somewhat unusual as well, due to the fact that Nomad can often have the messiest starts in the game. Now, of course, this Chinese team already starting with their walls. I am not surprised by that in the slightest. The Chinese team, very well known for their walling and their incredible walling skills. It is no surprise, but they really do. There's no word of a lie. They wall up like crazy, and to be fair, it's a strong strategy. Walls in Age of Empires are really strong, and they are very overpowered in a sense. So it's stone walls especially, because stone walls in the Castle Age make it very difficult for anyone to break through. You can always wall behind a wall and basically just create an endless amount of walls to keep your opponent out if you so desire. And the Chinese team really do utilize those walls, and you can't really blame them. We've seen a lot of teams already doing this. We've seen L Clan creating very fast team walls. We've seen the Dreamers creating quick team walls as well in these games, and it makes sense because it does provide your pockets with a lot more safety, and the last thing you really want is your pocket players being raided with knights, which is what we saw with the Tyrant game, where they lost to the Czech team, and that is kind of insane that that happened. And I think it's mostly down to the fact that they didn't have walls up, and the Czech team were able to get their knights right in there and do some serious damage. Now, I think that's the only game so far that we've seen, the Czech versus Tyrant team Land Nomad, where the underdog actually managed to gain a victory. It's been pretty much 5-0 across the board for all the other sets of games that we've watched so far, where the expected winners were indeed the winners, and I'm kind of hoping we see some more upsets down the line as well. It's not going to be 5-0s across the board for the rest of the tournament, of course, because the group stages have got some pretty competitive teams in them. And in fact, I think Group 8 is one of the most competitive groups out there. And considering that Czech team actually took a game from Tyrant in that first set, it could even be that the Group 1 of the group stage is one of the most competitive groups as well. So obviously all the players here just taking their boars and their sheep and taking what deer they can and finding what they can across the map. And Land Nomad, no scouts, of course. So scouting with sheep is all the rage, and Magnata getting a ton of sheep. My goodness me, he has so many sheep. He has 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 sheep here. That's 1,500 food plus 3 boar. And I don't think this guy, or 5 boar even, make that 5 boar. He's going to have no shortage of food today. The yellow, though, is going to be taking these boar. McL male is going to be taking them. And of course, there are plenty of boar, plenty of deer on this map. And that is simply because you cannot rely on getting a lot of sheep on this one. Now, in a standard map with standard resources, you're always going to have those 4 starting sheep and then the groups of 2 sheep, and you're going to have 2 boar. You can guarantee that's going to happen. Now, Land Nomad, you've got no guarantee of getting all of your sheep because you might just not find them. You might be really unlucky and your villagers might not find any sheep at the start of the game. So we'll actually have a quick look at who has got sheep and who hasn't. Scrath here in red, very few sheep in comparison to Magnata. We have a look at someone else, for instance, the orange player here, Grammy, very few sheep again. So you can get really unlucky with that, and that is, again, one of those random elements of Land Nomad and just Age of Empires random maps in general, and something that gives the game quite a bit of character, I feel, as well. Just not being too sure what you're going to get going into every single game that you play. It's a nice refreshing element. So I am okay coming in with this 4th boar now. 4 boars for him, you see. That's a lot of boar. Purple on the flank, just 2 boars over here, and I'm not seeing any more. Yes, I am actually. He's got 4 as well. So, I mean, 2 Chinese players with 4 boar. Super Zoo with 3 boar and a big deer patch. The PBTD, the grey player, he's bringing in his 4th boar now as well, and he's got big deer patches as well. Looks like there's only 3 boar for the yellow player here, whereas Magnata should have 4. And for red, he's already building farms because he has no boar anywhere nearby. Oh, he does, actually. My bad. He has got 3 boar, but he's just not found them, I don't think. If we have a look at Scrath's point of view now, I can only assume he's not found his boar, otherwise he would not be building farms. And this is where I say you can be a little bit unfortunate. It looks like one of his villagers started here. And if he has a villager starting here, there's no reason for him to walk to the right into the edge of the map. So this is why Scrath hasn't found his boar. And if we then have a look at the final player, the orange player, Grammy is also making farms at the moment, which is a bad sign because it means that he has not found boar either. He's found 1 boar so far. And in fact, I can actually say with certainty that he does not have boar here because his boar, I assume, are supposed to be here, and those 3 boar are obviously behind this massive tree line. You'd never be able to bring them in, and that's unfortunate for him. So orange here, not off to the best start, and building farms early, it does actually boost your score because the farms add to your score, but it's not necessarily a good thing having to build farms this early on. You want to be relying on that natural food as much as you can, and for as long as you can. Now, on the top side of the map, we got big wall-offs from both teams. In fact, PBTD with that big team wall coming up already. A little bit of walling from Jeffrey, but not a great amount because he's so far back in the corner of the map. And he's kind of left it to D and IMOK, who is now walling up as well all across the center. Super Zoo, Teal, probably not going to have an easy time walling this one because he is kind of exposed on this right flank. He's got no trees in front of him, all the trees are behind him, and if he wants to wall this, he would have to build out from this tree line, go out across here, across the front, and then down to this tree line here. And he's got a couple of houses here already, so I mean perhaps he will wall up this way, but it's not going to be easy for him to wall this right side entirely. And it's going to make it kind of interesting to see what he does on this right side. I imagine the Chinese guys a little bit out of their comfort zone when they're unable to get a full wall up. And I'm sure they're skilled enough and, of course, have enough experience in this game to be able to pull that off anyway. But it is just worth noting. Meanwhile, Grammy is putting up that palisade wall on the right side. And, of course, McL, walling up on the top. The natural cliffs across the middle are looking really good for MCL, causing a really nice straight wall of rock for them already. And we've got Magnata walling up back here anyway. So the MCL team is completely team walled at the moment. And considering they actually have that wall up already, that means that they are ahead of the team wall than CKF at this point in time. But I like the fact that MCL is doing the team wall here. And the reason for that is because MCL, like I say, the underdogs going into this game, if they can get themselves into the post-Imperial Age, by post-Imperial Age I mean inter-Imperial, and then get all of the techs on top of that, they're going to be on a pretty even footing with CKF, because once 2 teams get to that post-Imperial stage, it's much more of a slog match, it becomes much more stalematy, and that's when the underdogs could get a victory. Either that, or if they rush down their opponents early and do serious damage to one of the flanks very early on. So the late game becomes a little bit more even, I feel. But obviously one of these teams is going to want to do some early, well, not early aggression, but they want to do some damage as quickly as possible to prevent the game from becoming a long, stagnant, late game, post-Imperial trash war, which is actually, the trash war part is probably going to be incorrect because they will have trade with 4 players, but you know what I'm saying. So just having a quick look at this, we'll check out the pocket players, though the pocket players and the flank players won't really have too much difference here due to the fact that they are all walled in, and they'll probably all pull off a fast castle. There's going to be no trushing in this game, which is often seen in Nomad, though we've got Super Zoo at the south taking quite a bit of stone. So for Super Zoo here, he could make some really big plays for his team in the south. Playing as the what are they called? The Spanish, that's the one. Playing as the Spanish, it can be very valuable to get up some early castles and start making some conquistadors early on. Of course, you will want to do about a 4 TC boom, but because he's on the flank here, because there's no wall, he could go forwards with a castle and try and bust these walls from Grammy and do some serious damage if he can do that and get some conquistadors in. That might be his train of thought here, and he is certainly saving for a castle with this many villagers taking stone. Now, on the left flank, we've got Turks, so, I mean, don't want to say that it's going to be the case, but a fast Imperial, perhaps. In fact, looking at this, McL is going up on 31 villagers to the castle age, but he's got a lot of villagers taking wood at the moment, and he is stonewalling as well, so I kind of don't think a fast Imperial's on the cards here. He's also not taking any gold, so no fast Imperial from the Turk player. We're going to see a fast Imperial from someone else, perhaps. I don't know. It's a really uncommon strategy, one that you just don't see all that often. I'm just trying to work out who the Turk player is for this team. For the CKF guys, it's Jeffrey, but yeah, no fast Imperial from him either. He's putting up his second TC now. Fast Imperial, really risky strat. But if you're on the flank and you pull off a fast Imperial, you can absolutely clean up one of the flank players in a matter of minutes, I guess, with that insanely fast Turkish gunpowder, which can do really good damage. Really risky, simply because you go up with an insanely fragile eco, but other than that, it can do some mad damage. Now, the Castle Age upgrades coming in for most players now. Slowly but surely, they are getting there. And on this top side, we've got PBTD with that castle, and it's not in a particularly, I can't even say particularly, it's not in a particularly offensive location, but he is starting to get some plumed archers now to try and take that center map control, because this area is kind of like no man's land at the moment. There's not really anything here. But I am, like I say, a little concerned for Super Zoo being on this flank. No real wall off from him. He simply cannot do it. And he is building that castle now, but it's in a defensive location as those knights from Magnata head down to him. And that makes perfect sense to put this castle here. He's trying to make a choke point between this line of trees and his TC, and that castle at the front is just going to keep that gold nice and safe for him. Even though he has got gold in the back, it's just going to help to secure this area of the map. Of course, Magnata could come in with these knights and do a little bit of damage, but he's going to take a lot of damage from that castle, and it's not going to be easy for him to do that. But those knights, those plumed archers, coming out onto the middle of the map now, of course, looking to scout, because they have no scouts to begin with, so that scouting information is very valuable, but also looking, if they can, for an opening and maybe an opportunity to put some damage out there, maybe breach a wall, which is going to be difficult now, but maybe do that, and if possible, just take map control in the middle, so that all of these extra gold piles and stone piles can be easily claimed later on. If you push your opponents back behind their walls, then they obviously are going to be at a slight disadvantage when you reach the Imperial Age, because you're going to be the ones with the aggression coming out if you are into the Imperial Age and you have center map control. So more stone walls coming up, and you know, this pace of the game already seems very much like it's going to be a long game. But looking at that population tab, the CKF guy is getting a little bit further ahead in population here. PBTD at the moment up to 47, and I know he's got a few plumed archers out, but that's 47 population for him. Yellow has only got 35 at the moment, and interestingly enough, oh no, never mind. He was still only on 1 TC. Not quite sure why. Oh no, my bad. He is going up to 3 TCs now. He had his second TC up already. I just missed that one back there. Castle up for him. But yeah, 36 population for yellow at the moment. While as I'm okay is up to 48. That's quite a big difference. Scrath, the red player, is at 44. And these guys are going to be booming up. But Scrath certainly seems quite slow here to get that third town centre up in comparison to the CKF team, who have their third TCs up pretty quickly. Although saying that, Super Zoo, considering he saved up for that castle and he's doing Conquistadors, he's not going to be getting that third TC up quite as fast. But they are taking that map control that we talked about. Obviously, these Conquistadors packing a real punch, and they are very potent at taking out knights and such. So this is what we were talking about earlier on, about not letting this game go to the late Imperial Age. Obviously, that's not really what either of these teams want in an ideal world. So we've got Super Zoo on this right side building that siege workshop, and he is going to be making some rams or some mangonels, probably a mangonel, but no reason why you could not add a ram as well for good measure, just to try and take down that gate. But that siege workshop goes up, and that means that now Grammy on this flank position is completely at risk. He's not got a castle or anything like that. He is putting up a university though, but that does not indicate an Imperial Age upgrade. It just indicates that perhaps we'll see an earlier ballistics than he intended. We'll wait and see. we'll keep an eye out on that. But the Mayan players here doing quite a different strat. Obviously, the orange player with 3 TCs very quickly, booming up as fast as he can, whilst on the left side, PBTD getting that castle out first and making those plumed archers. But wow. PBTD managing to break down that wall. And that's a little bit of pressure. That's a little bit of early pressure. But that's all that he needed to put McL on a little bit of a defensive now. Obviously, that castle there is in a great location for him, but PBTD will look for another angle, and he's not going to stop looking for an angle. He's going to keep going and keep seeing what he can find here and try and hit McL as much as he can. Now, on this right side, there's that mangonel, and there's that gate on fire. Grammy walling up behind this with more stone walls, and that gate's not going to last long at all. We've got some petards out here for Super Zoo as well. The petards making their appearance in this very first game, but fortified wall from Grammy, and of course that is what the university was for. Completely overlooking that one. There's a hole in your wall, dear Grammy, dear Grammy. There's a hole in your wall, dear Grammy, a hole. Then fix it. But anyway, he's in, and that is what matters. That fortified wall upgrade wasted now as those units break into that flank, and that is a big problem. Of course, that castle there able to do a good area control, but farms going idle, villagers at risk. And these guys are in, and that's what matters. Now on here, we've also got PBTD breaking through those walls. He was persistent, he got through, and of course he's making these guys scramble to defend. It's nothing major, just a couple of plumed archers. But the fact is now, CKF have full map control. MCL have already fallen back from their initial wall off. They're pushed back on both sides, and believe you me, the Imperial Age upgrades will be coming in faster than we think. The Imperial Age upgrades will be on their way in the next, 8 minutes or so. So this push has come at a great time, and it's going to keep MCL on the defensive, put their ecos at a little bit of risk. But the point here really is that if CKF don't even kill any villagers, MCL is at risk, and they're already on the defensive, which means that once these guys do reach Imperial, they will be able to push in. JS Dodd, sorry, my bad. JS Dodd just became a Wallalow Warlord. Thank you very much, JS Dodd. Welcome to the Wallalow Warlords. Best new subscriber right there. Thank you very much for subscribing. And I hope you are enjoying these games. Same goes for all of you watching there. Thank you for tuning in. I say this every time, but I feel like it's my duty to thank you for tuning in, because you've put in the time, and you're putting time aside to watch this stream. And obviously I would not be doing this if it wasn't for you guys, so thank you all. MCL pushing these guys back slightly on this right side. Scrath with a few more knights now. And another thing that this can do as well, this early aggression can really cause your opponents to overinvest in military. Now, I guess really in the early stages of the game, having a little bit of military out is no big deal, no great shakes. But if you have your pocket players scrambling to make as many knights as they can to push this back, and then they realize that actually they've overreacted, made way more knights than they need, and then the other team get that huge Imperial Age advantage over you, that could also be another downside to this. It's kind of speculation, but I mean it certainly can turn out that way. Imperial Age is not coming in for anyone yet, apart from Jeffrey, who has done nothing but boom, boom, boom. He wants you in his room. He wants to spend the night together in his room. The Turks here in the pocket position, getting up to the Imperial Age pretty quickly. And of course, we know what that means. It means gunpowder and siege. And, well, not necessarily, but, I mean, I don't see any reason why not. He may as well come forwards with some villagers and build another castle over here on this left side near PBTD. Push forwards with some cannons and such like. So Super Zoo now on the defensive, and Scrath has pushed back with quite a few knights here. And in fact, look at that. He's put +2 defense on these knights. He's done bloodlines and +1 attack. He's invested quite a lot into that. And I guarantee to you now that Scrath is probably going to be a little bit slower up to the Imperial Age as a result. So Scrath is Teuton player for the MCL team, and the Teuton player for the blue team is IMOK. Now IMOK has made some knights, he's got some here, but look, no upgrades aside from that +1 defense, which he's probably just researched as he was going up to the Imperial Age, and that Imperial Age upgrade's already in. So he's got that advantage. He's at 108 population, Scrath is at 108 as well. These two are identical in population, but IMOK has the Imperial Age, Scrath does not, and he has overcommitted, overreacted almost, to this early aggression. And it's kind of baited him, almost, into making way more knights and upgrading these knights more than he really needs to at this point in time. And as a result, I'm okay going to storm through with Cavalier very shortly. So very good team play by CKF on this left flank. And meanwhile, Jeffrey coming forwards with that castle, kind of where we predicted that. And we can see as well that McL here going to build a bunch of walls behind this. All these walls turning into end pieces. That's because he's put some walls behind it. And if we have a look at McL's point of view, there are those walls going up. He's still got that stone wall there. But this pressure's about to come in. Jeffrey will be Imperial very soon. And Jeffrey, he could just go for siege workshops and bombard cannons, but he has no siege workshops yet. But look at that food and gold. 1,300 food, or 1,300 gold. And Jeffrey is preparing for a pretty much all-out assault on this left-hand side. And meanwhile on the right, that's a lot of plumed archers from Grammy. That's a lot of knights from Scrath. But they've not done anything with it yet. They've not quite pushed forwards yet. And I don't think they're going to be able to do that comfortably either. They're going to be pushing into 2 castles, 2 TCs here. And to be fair, that might just be a little bit suicidal if they go and attack this TC now with this castle on the hill. So the Imperial Age upgrade for IMOK going to be done first. And we're starting to see other people now up to Imp. PBTD is up, IMOK is up, Jeffrey is already Imperial, and Super Zoo is still Castle. But for NTCL, nobody's even clicked up yet. Oh, sorry, Magnata has clicked up, my bad. But and Scrath now as well. Okay, but they are quite considerably behind in comparison. Magnata, let's be honest though, has not done any military at all just yet. Maybe 2 or 3 knights, but he is now on the way up as well. He's playing as the Spanish, so of course big boom for him, and those knights are going to be coming out. But on this left flank, the pressure's already on. Some insane pressure as these guys push forwards. Jeffrey with more castles coming up on this left side, PBTD as well with those coming up, and those coming out. So these stone walls are going to go down very fast for the yellow player here. On the right side, no knights from Scrath in sight. Where did those knights even go? Okay, they've fallen back. And so CKF still have map control, and they now have a big tech advantage as these bombard cannons start coming out. Mass plumed archers from D on this left flank. And I think Magnata has no choice but to support this left flank here. Of course, PBTD up to the Imperial Age now. Magnata, the first person up for the MCL team. And we've just got more walls back here from McL now as well. Super Zoo made quite a lot of conquistadors on this right side. Hey there, Makushi. Makushi donated $5.43, and he said, "I'm sleepy, sad face. Good night, everybody," with a big fat love heart at the end. Good night, Makushi. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your donation as well. It is much appreciated. So, on this north side, the fortified wall upgrade being done. I'm glad that's done because these guys are going to need it. What is defending this left flank? About 10 Janissaries and 5 knights. Facing up against about 20 Janissaries or thereabouts, and a bunch of plumed archers as well. Lots of castles, of course. On the right side, it's a little bit of a stalemate. Not much action here. Like I say, no man's land in the middle of the map. No one wants to go out here yet. It's too dangerous, too open. The Badlands in the center. But the CKF team will be able to secure these center resources if they start pushing on the right side very soon. Left side's starting to crumble. And these fortified walls can only last so long. 2 more castles now coming up from Jeffrey and PBTD. And that makes a total of 4 castles right there. Plus the 2 that are going up. That's 6. Plus that castle back there. That's 7 castles. And how many castles are we seeing from the MCL team at the moment? Just 2. Just 2 for now, and maybe some more to come. Obviously, the Spanish here will be wanting to get a few castles out, but not really for the conquistadors as much as for just protection for their economy. Markets starting to come out for both teams now as well. Trade coming up, and Anonymous, Mr. Anon, donating $4.44 in Clayman 47 we trust. Clayman has really become an AOC superstar, hasn't he? Everyone knows about Clayman. I went onto Reddit earlier, and I saw Clayman's name mentioned in about 3 different Reddit posts. Like, everybody is aware of Clayman the pirate. It's kind of funny, but well deserved, I think. I think well deserved. His legend will go on. Thank you very much, Anonymous, for your donation there. So on this right side, I am okay in the blue with those Cavalier, and the mass here of units is getting pretty potent. We're looking at 37 Cavalier for the blue player, but 42 military units out for Scrath. And I mean, like I said, he did probably overreact a little bit with the knights, but because they've not actually engaged yet, he didn't lose any knights, and therefore he's now been able to upgrade them to Cavalier. But they are completely even. I'm okay 41 and Scrath 42 Cavalier on the map at the moment. We're seeing 20 Conquistadors from Super Zoo versus the 32 Plumed Archers from Grammy, but arguably, you know, Conquistadors have a lot more firepower. But there's that Paladin upgrade from I'm okay, and I want to see if Scrath has that Paladin upgrade on the way yet. It's on 50%, so he's a little bit further behind. Now is the time for CKF to attack. Now on this left flank, these guys, MCL buying themselves time, but this wall is slowly being eaten away as MCL try and wall it back up, but I don't see how this fortified wall is going to even go up now. The walls are down, the army's going to flood in, and there's a lot of paladins patrolling here for Magnata, and Magnata as well now with those Trebs trying to push these castles back, but it is going to be tough. Trebuchets quite easily countered by bombard cannons, those Turkish bombard cannons as well, don't forget, +2 range, 8 + 5 range on their bombard towers. That is a lot of damn range right there, and although they are still outranged by Trebs, this is looking really, really dicey now for McL and MCL. It's pretty much 2v1 on Magnata. How are Magnata's Paladins going to hold out? He's lacking that attack upgrade at the moment, but PBTD lacking the defense upgrade on those plumes. At first glance, there's nowhere near enough plumes there, but let's not forget the elite Janissaries that are backing this up. Let's not forget those bombard towers that are going to go up in this choke point. And the thing about the bombard towers here for the Turks is that it makes it harder for the other players to push back. If you go in with bombard towers following it up, they cannot push back into that without taking considerable time to take down the towers. So they're a really strategical force, and I am okay abandoning this right side now. He's got a few paladins over here, but he is running in with massed paladins on this left side, completely upgraded, equal upgrades to the Spanish, but these guys are outnumbered 3-1 basically on this left side, with Magnata holding out against I am okay, Jeffrey and PBTD. Seriously, Jeffrey's got a ton of Janissaries here, elite Janissaries, about 40 of them on the map, and that's an insane amount. Meanwhile, on the right side, those Conquistadors are laying down the damage, laying down those musket balls, sinking lead into Scrath's army. Those Teutonic Paladins lacking that +2 attack upgrade, giving I am okay a slight advantage here. Of course, those Plumed Archers putting in a lot of damage from behind, but those Conquistadors arguably putting out much more firepower in the long run due to their much higher attack. This is looking like Super Zoo might end up falling back, but the question is, are they going to fall back far enough to cause significant damage? And I don't think they're going to fall back far enough in time, because this castle is about to fall at the north of the map. Magnata is losing these paladins faster than he can create them, and these guys are going to be very soon into Magnata's eco, and if he loses that eco, he's losing that paladin production, and that is really bad news. Not to mention the fact that the trade is now at risk. This mass, this death ball of elite Janissaries and Plumed Archers, backed up with siege rams and these bombard towers just going up for good measure, is basically going to destroy this eco from Magnata in a matter of seconds. The right side, even if this stays stalemating, it is over for MCL on the left, and that is enough to call a GG, I feel. This GG probably incoming very, very soon, and this game has been really fun, to be honest with you. The CKF team coordinating their attack really nicely, and this death ball of Janissaries and Plumed Archers, you cannot run into that. In fact, I want to see these paladins run into this just to see how quickly they die. Of course, these siege rams causing big problems as well, and Magnata either has to focus these down or loses TCs, loses eco. Not to mention the fact these guys are getting very close to the trade now as well. Magnata going for those rams, and let's just see how quickly these paladins die as these plumed archers and janissaries pile into this similar location. This is where you need a siege onager or two, right? A couple of siege onagers behind this, and that whole army would be dead. However, it's not late enough into the game for siege onagers. No way would the Teuton player here, the red player, be able to afford siege onagers just yet. And if he did afford them, he would be sacrificing a lot of paladins, and this right side would be gone. Magnata says GG, and that is completely a fair call. GG from Scrath there as well, and that's it, the resignation from MCL. Well played by CKF. My god, that is a lot of conquistadors. 76 conquistadors from the teal player there. I don't think I've ever seen that many conquistadors in a competitive game, and congratulations to CKF. They were impeccable with their push there. Of course, CKF very well accustomed to sitting behind their walls and booming up and then pushing out. And that push was just, it was just right. It was just right. And unfortunately, McL there was unable to get up to the Imperial Age anywhere near fast enough to stop that. And the play by CKF was very impressive, very good, and demonstrating some good teamwork as well. Unfortunately, yes, no siege onagers, but maybe next time when we see the heavy civs in play once again. Teutons. Gotta love the Teutons. Their siege onagers and just that heavy siege is great, but unfortunately Scrat never got to that point because he just could not get, he could not afford siege onager with pumping out this many knights, this many paladins as well. And I don't really think his eco was as big as perhaps the CKF guys was. He did have 146 eco units though, so I guess he wasn't that far behind. And the interesting thing here is that PBTD only had 97 eco units. He actually deleted loads of his economy and simply just spammed so many plumed archers. He had 97 plumed archers in the end there. Maybe a few less if you account for the rams, but PBTD steamrolling through with Jeffrey at the top, and that is just some seriously strong and potent combination of army there.